12:04 in the afternoon here on 90.3 FM, and it's time for Helping Seniors of Brevard. And you know, that music always seems, Kerry, Fink, to make people want to kind of get up and dance. Even Bill Johnson was enjoying that music. We've thought about changing the music in the past, but it seems like everybody really enjoys that music, Kerry, Fink.
Yeah, you know, we used to call that the music of your life. And,
That's right.
It really, you know, we used to make this joke, John Harper, that we said, you know, this music is like the classical music of our lifetime. You know, Beethoven's been dead 350 years or whatever it's been. Nobody seems to mind. They still like classical music, and I just think this is the classical music of our lifetime.
It is, and I used to always say when I was much younger, you always know that when you hear the music of your life, it's of your life.
That's right.
So, but it's good music, and nice to get the show underway here. Kerry, Fink, let me officially introduce you every Wednesday from 12 noon to 1 o'clock. It's Helping Seniors of Brevard, and here's your host of Helping Seniors of Brevard and the Executive Director of Helping Seniors, none other than Kerry, Fink.
Well, thank you, John Harper, and it's always great to be here on Wednesday, 12 noon, lunchtime gathering here at 90.3 FM, WEJF. Welcome also to those listening online at WEJF.net, and to those of you who catch us later as a podcast on Apple iTunes or Amazon Podcasts or Google Podcasts or however you get podcasts. Thank you for listening. And, you know, I was just thinking we are really blessed that today the weather is a lot better than it was a week ago. And my goodness, it was a week with the weather. And so glad that things didn't turn out very badly on this coast. And our prayers, of course, with everybody on the southwest coast of Florida as they try to sort through all that. But, you know, I was talking with our guest, Bill Johnson, board-certified elder law attorney, Bill Johnson of William A. Johnson, PA, longtime friend of Helping Seniors. And, you know, we were talking about this, that Joe Steckler, our president and founder of Helping Seniors, has always talked about the need for having an aging plan. And a lot of people say, well, what is that? And I've always used the analogy, it's like a hurricane plan. We understand a hurricane plan in Florida. Just because you make a idea of what you want to do about batteries or generators or water, or I would leave in the, you know, if the storm gets this bad or if it's coming in this particular direction, you think through all these things ahead of time. But that's exactly what we talk about when we talk about making an aging plan, because it's the same thing. It doesn't mean you want the hurricane here, or it doesn't mean you want to have a problem in your senior years. It just means you want to have already thought through some of the things that you might run into, so you have a plan to work your way through them. And so whenever we have this opportunity on the first Wednesday of each month, Bill Johnson is our guest, and we get to ask a board-certified elder law attorney about things that we need to know or think about when it comes to our aging plan. In fact, Bill, I think you'd agreed to help us. We're going to do an article in the November Helping Seniors of Brevard newsletter that we publish in the center section of Senior Scene magazine. And if you've been following us this year, we've said our theme for the year is getting your ducks in a row, which is a euphemism actually for just what Joe Steckler calls getting your aging plan together. So I was recapping and I said, Bill, you know, if you remember, you helped us at the beginning of the year because we wrote a whole section in the magazine about paperwork that you need to think about as a senior as it pertains to elder law. And this has way more to do with just wills and trust, because it has to do with your health care. It has to do with financial planning. If you're thinking of things like Medicare planning or VA planning or different things like this, there's a lot of areas it encompasses. I said from there we went on and we talked about finance. So different things. This has to do with when you would take your Social Security, what you might need to think about for Medicaid planning, different areas like that. Then we went on to, okay, I might want to stay in my home. How do I do that safely? Do I need to make home modifications? Do I need to think about maybe getting some help at home? Maybe, you know, either somebody like Seniors Helping Seniors that is companion care, or maybe I need to have a little more help at home. And so I need to start thinking about plans for that. From there, we talked about, okay, what if I'm willing to choose a different kind of home? Maybe I'm looking at downsizing or going to independent living, assisted living. So that was a whole area we covered. Then we went from there, we went and we talked about medical, all the things that you have to think about medical. How to stay healthy, how to make the best of any kind of a medical situation that crops up, be prepared for that. And then last month we talked about Medicare because everybody's mailbox gets flooded with all this, it's time to pick your 2023 plan and you need to think about what's going to suit your purposes best. This month, if you picked up your copy of Senior Scene magazine, or you can find it online because everything that we've talked about, back issues and everything, are right there at helpingseniorsofbrevard.org. So this month we've talked about transportation, which gave us a little bit of license to talk about the car raffle fundraiser and the cruise, which we'll talk about a little bit in the show later on. But also the fact that a lot of people do need to think about a plan for transportation. Maybe you're not able to drive or your car is out of commission or different things like that. What are some other options for getting around in our county? So that all brings us up to the November issue, Bill Johnson, where we start to talk about how do we tie all this stuff together that we've tried to have people think about through the year. And you're going to help us put that article together. And thank you, Bill.
Oh, you're very welcome.
So he's got a big task.
I think.
You got a big task in front of you, but you are the guy for it. And when we were, it's always fun to plan for this show because Bill comes up with some great topics. And I was emailing him and say, Bill, what do you think we should talk about this year or this time? And he said, how about how you go about hiring an attorney? How do you know how to select an attorney? We've already talked about some horror stories, Bill, along the way, like where you've had to untangle messes from people who try do-it-yourself attorney work. Maybe they got a form online or at a supply store. And then I've even heard the horror stories about somebody who went to maybe an attorney that had helped them with something else but has no expertise in elder law, and they actually botched it and caused a big problem.
That can happen. That can happen.
Yeah, and so getting, it's kind of like you wouldn't go to your you wouldn't go to your hearing doctor and say, I need help with cardiology, but somehow people think maybe that's an idea to think about for an attorney.
And that is really a good lead-in for the topic because I get asked all the time, people come to me and they'll ask me, well, do you know a personal injury attorney or do you know a real estate attorney and things like that. So they always come looking for referrals and to different other sorts of attorneys because most attorneys aren't jacks of all trades. Most of us specialize in the area, and you really, for any sort of legal matter, want somebody who specializes in that sort of area.
And I was saying, even as you were saying that, right, the point is that you want the right tool for the right job. And just like you wouldn't, you would find the right doctor. You may have a general practitioner who says, wow, I think you need a consult about this particular situation. Then that doctor is going to send you to somebody that he or she believes is specialized in helping you with that particular situation. And I sure could see the same thing. It'd be like, especially when we talk about this term board certified. I'm going to ask you to really explain to us because somebody asked me that question this week and I wasn't able to answer it other than say, like, I know Bill has worked in this area for so many years. I know he's got so much experience that literally people will ask him for advice on how legislature would word things or something so that they accomplish the things correctly. And I know you're a great resource, for example, in the Florida State Guardianship Association, where you'll speak to different topics. They'll call you in for conferences and things like that because you have this specialized expertise. But what exactly is board certified?
To be board certified by the Florida Bar, you have to have been an attorney at least 5 years. Mm-hmm. You have to do substantial work for elder law. It's in maybe 5 or 6 different areas. So you have to be, have done estate planning, know about guardianship and capacity planning, fiduciaries, senior housing, Medicare, Medicaid, veterans benefits. And they lump those into like one category, public benefits. But you have to practice in those fields, substantially practice. Mm-hmm. So to be board certified in an area, your actual work experience has to be in the area you're pretty much getting board certified in. Then you have to take a test and show that you're competent in all those areas. And you also have to undergo a peer review. So they will send out letters to other people who do work in the same area or similar areas and ask them to do a peer review of you and, what do they think of you? How would they rate you in all these different areas? And so you have to actually pass a peer review, you have to pass the exam, you have to show that you've worked in the fields that you're trying to get board certified in. Then once you're board certified, the party's not over. Most attorneys just have to do 30 hours of continuing education every 3 years.
Oh.
Okay, so 10 hours of continuing education a year if you average it. When you're board certified, you have to do 120 hours of continuing education, but over a 5-year period.
Okay.
So you have to do considerably more continuing education than just your average attorney.
I think that's a thing that we're learning along the way. Like I said, this year we set out our theme for the year is getting your ducks in a row, or working on your aging plan. And I think one of the things that I have definitely learned along the way, listening to folks like yourself who have so much expertise in a given area, but in general, I think this is going to apply, and I really think this is going to be our theme for next year, calling it "Don't Try This on Your Own." Because the more we study the things that you want to get in place and think about in terms of your aging plan, the more you get a sense that there's no reason for you to try to do this on your own, that the benefit of having somebody who really does this and knows the ins and outs and the nuances and actually pitfalls, can help you avoid pitfalls, is so important. Because I know, Bill, along the way we've talked about so often where you've had to fix things, hopefully before it becomes disastrous, but oftentimes after it's become the disaster because somebody took a shortcut thinking innocently that they had done this the right way.
And sometimes the shortcuts end up costing you considerably more money and time to fix than it would have cost to do it right the first time.
And that's another point, because I think we've talked about this. I'm going to come back, stay on this thing about board certified. So are a lot of attorneys in our area board certified?
Not a lot. It is I can't remember the percentage, but not everybody wants to do all those continuing education hours and have a peer review and take a test and that sort of stuff. You don't have to do that to practice in the different areas of law. Once you have a law license, you can practice in whatever area you want to practice in. But to be board certified, you have to go through those, the testing and the continuing education and substantial involvement things.
An analogy I was going to draw, there's a lady who's been involved in the Helping Seniors organization. Her name is Debbie Beard, and she's a real estate agent. She has a company called Next Chapter Real Estate, and she takes a test called the Senior Real Estate Specialist. And she was telling me that less than 2% of realtors in the country bothered to seek out that designation, the SRES they call it, Senior Real Estate Specialist. And she said what they do is they particularly help you understand the nuances of senior real estate transactions. For example, any good real estate agent knows how to buy and sell and how to, work the closing and make sure documents are properly transferred and all that. But a senior real estate specialist understands some nuances as it may pertain to what happens with Medicare, VA planning, and different nuances that you have to think of when it's a transaction involving a senior. And I was thinking that maybe the board certified elder law attorney is sort of the same idea, that you wanting to be the best that you can be in your chosen profession. It's not required, but you choose to go above and beyond and really become like the best of the best in terms of that field of knowledge?
Well, I looked it up for you, Kerry.
Okay.
The amazing power of Google. It is 7% of attorneys are board certified in Florida.
So less than 1 in 10. And would that be general or would that be specifically elderly?
That is just all attorneys.
Wow. So less than 1 in 10 take the time to really become like best of the best.
Correct.
So that goes back to the basic question that we wanted to kind of try to address. You know, here we are, we think we're intelligent, which is probably why we think we see a commercial on TV and we can go fill out our own forms. It's on the internet. It must be true, right? And then inadvertently, we get ourselves into a lot of trouble. Or like you and I have talked about a lot of times, maybe somebody will see a business card on a bulletin board at church or something, and it says, I can help you with your estate plan or something like that. But it's not an attorney, let alone a board certified attorney. And then sometimes, and I think this happens a lot, we get people moving into Florida who may have done their planning in another state and think they're all, jam up, jelly tight, ready to go. And then they get to Florida, and even though this Florida tries to accept those documents, there's some nuances and it could cause them some problems.
That is very true. And if you move here from another state, you probably should have those documents reviewed.
Yeah, Bill, I was just telling you that I had an appointment up in Atlanta at the early part of this week, and I was talking to somebody who's a real financial expert, and this person has clients in Georgia, but also a lot in Florida. And just from my very limited part of what I've learned literally from you and through the Helping Seniors organization is I was able to tell him a few things that he was surprised to know were different in Florida as it pertained to elder law. And he said, where we are here up in Atlanta, we don't have a lot of elder law attorneys who are experts. He said, you guys must really, it would seem like it makes sense that in Florida. But I said, there's also differences. And he wasn't really aware of some of those.
Well, let's talk about how to find an elder law attorney or an attorney for that matter.
Good.
So the Florida Bar has a website, floridabar.org. That's floridabar.org. You can go to that website, and if you use your phone, the first two things that'll pop up is find a lawyer or get a referral.
Uh-huh.
If you go into the find a lawyer, you can enter any lawyer's name, and their profile will show up, and you can check them out. It'll tell you what their areas of practice are. It can tell you if they've had any disciplinary history, where they graduated law school, when they were admitted to the bar, things like that. You can also, in that same area, you can enter, if you say you don't know an attorney's name, you can enter a town or a county. Mm-hmm. So you could enter Brevard County, and then below that, you can search for board-certified attorneys in Brevard County, or you can search by area of practice. So if you searched elder law attorneys, Brevard County, my name would pop up. Board-certified elder law attorneys, Brevard County, my name would pop up. If you also search Brevard County estate planning, my name would pop up.
Okay.
So everybody has their specialties or areas of practice, and then if they're board certified, it denotes that. You can also search by town, too. So you could put in Melbourne, and then what you're looking for, or Titusville, or Orlando, wherever you're going to search, you can go ahead and search that, like I said, either by city or county, and then put in areas of practice. You can put in board certifications, and it'll give you all the attorneys who are practiced in that area in the county. It'll also give you all the people who are board certified in that particular area in the city or county as well. If you click on the other button, referral, that will send you to the lawyer's referral service. And that is a service that lawyers can join looking for referrals from the Florida Bar. And they will, you tell them what your problem is, they will refer you to a person in your city or county that deals with that particular issue. Attorneys have to sign up for that, and they have to also pay into the system to belong to that. So you're not necessarily going to get the best and greatest attorneys. You're not guaranteed to get that. You may get that, but you're not guaranteed to get that sort of thing. Now, for my specialty, elder law, there is also another organization called the National Academy of Elder Law Attorneys, and their website is naela.org.
Wow.
Okay.
Say that one again.
National Academy of Elder Law Attorneys.org, naela.org. And if you go to their website, you can do a search nationally. And you can search by state and city, and it'll pull up people who do elder law, who belong to the National Academy of Elder Law Attorneys in that particular city or county. And it will also tell you what their areas of practice are, and it'll give you all the contact information. So if somebody says, do you know anybody in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania who does elder law? I refer them to that site, and they can go and look up people in Pittsburgh who do that area of law. And so they can find, elder law attorneys anywhere in the country. So that is very helpful as well if you're looking outside the state of Florida, to be looking through the naela.org website, because most people who do what I do, at least if they do a lot of it, belong to the National Academy of Elder Law Attorneys. And so that is just another service that is offered through them.
So I guess a question that I probably would say is, and we'll definitely get deeper into this in the second part of the show, is I'm sure, especially from what you were describing, that I might learn on the Florida Bar Association website, a refer attorney or something like that. I kind of get that that's almost like, I don't mean this the wrong way, it's almost like a yellow pages of attorneys. If you paid for the display ad, you probably have a display ad. It doesn't necessarily by itself mean that that's the best idea.
That's a fantastic point. In the second half of the show, we should talk about like word of mouth.
Right.
And then once you have some names, what you really should ask the attorney when you go meet with them.
Yeah, that's really what I wanted to get into, because I think probably and even if you went to the other site, the
naela.org.
That one, if we went there, at the end of the day, you'd probably wind up with a list of maybe a couple of names in your area, but that still isn't quite, you're maybe a little bit farther ahead, but you still don't know who you should call or how to do that. So that's going to be real fun to talk about when we get into the second half of the show. But really, if somebody's hearing this conversation and cut to the chase and say, well, let me call Bill Johnson's office, how would they reach you?
They can call my office at 321-253-1667.
Yeah, because I was going to say, you in particular, I think I'm going to jump the gun and maybe see if you agree with this. But I think one of the ways you can sort of evaluate is if you go to the website and you see what kind of resources, and do these people seem like they're providing a lot of resources and education to at least help you get started, so you know the right question to ask. And I know, like on your website, which I believe is floridaelderlaw.net.
That is correct.
You have a lot. You've done a publication for a number of years. I forget the name of it, but you can get it right there on the website. It's kind of like a guide to all this stuff.
And quite frankly, a lot of the way people find people these days is a Google search.
Yeah, a good point. Well, we're going to continue this conversation with Bill Johnson, board-certified elder law attorney, on how to find a good attorney, as we continue with Helping Seniors Radio right after this break.
Hey, it's 12:33 in the afternoon here on 90.3 FM. You're listening to Helping Seniors of Brevard, heard every Wednesday, 12 noon to 1 o'clock. Right now, let's get back to more of the program. Interesting one today. And here's the host of the show and the executive director of Helping Seniors of Brevard, Kerry Fink. Kerry?
Thanks, John Harper. It's always great to be back. Welcome back to the second half of Helping Seniors Radio right here on 90.3 FM, WEJF. And hello again, if you're listening online, WEJF.net. And we've been having a great conversation. I'm learning a lot today. I did not know, as an example, that when we're talking about using the lawyer referral service from the Florida Bar Association, that functions a lot like a white page, like a yellow pages. In other words, different attorneys are on that site because they're looking to, probably using the wrong term, advertise their services. And there's nothing wrong with that. I'm an advertising exec by trade, so I believe in the power of advertising. But you also have to understand what you're getting when you go to a service like that, because you do understand it's an advertised service. So our guest today is Bill Johnson, board certified elder law attorney. He's been a friend of the Helping Seniors organization since the day it started. He actually goes much farther back with our president and founder, Joe Steckler, who is the guy that created Joe's Clubs and everything that the Brevard Alzheimer's Foundation is known for. And we've been talking, Bill, this has been a fascinating conversation because we're talking about when it's time to hire an attorney, and obviously our specialty we're talking about is elder law attorney, but in general, you're giving us some good tips about how to go through that process. But as we go through that discussion, like we could go to the Florida Bar Association website and search for attorneys there. You also mentioned, and I'm going to get this wrong, the National Association?
Academy.
Go for it.
National Academy of Elder Law Attorneys.
Uh-huh.
The acronym NAELA.org.
Right. So that's another good resource if you're trying to gather some names of elder law attorneys who hold themselves to a higher standard, particularly in the area of elder law. But it leaves us with a question that we're going to try to answer in the second half of the show is like, okay, so now I've got a list full of names. What do I do from here?
Or say you even Googled, and you Google the Melbourne elder law attorneys.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people don't understand that when you Google something, the names that pop up have typically paid to pop up first.
You're back to a modern yellow pages, right? It's just, just because A plus number one plumbing is the first plumber you see in the phone book does not necessarily make them the best.
Correct. And also, there are reviews on there.
Uh-huh.
Now, we solicit reviews from clients.
Right.
We ask them to write a review. But again, you don't know any of those people.
Right. Well, that makes a lot. You see that, and so again, it goes. So there's nothing wrong with yellow pages. It's just to understand that when you're looking, that's what you're actually seeing, right? You're seeing, with all those different thoughts in play, you're at least being a smart consumer to recognize all that.
And even without a Google search or something of that nature, a lot of times people come to us word of mouth.
Uh-huh.
We actually tracked at my office how that occurs, or how people got to us, and it turned out 90% of people had gotten to us by word of mouth.
Mm-hmm.
That means either, and I think of that 90%, half were from referred from a business, and the other half were referred by friends or family.
Right.
So that's how we get a lot of our business. But say you've been given a name, you've gone through one of these methods of trying to find an attorney, you've gone to the Florida Bar website, or you've asked a relative or a friend, or you've Googled it. Now, what do you do when you go meet with the attorney?
Right.
And generally, you can actually go meet with more than one attorney, just like you can go to doctors and always go next door and get a second opinion. You can do the same thing with attorneys. The things you should be looking for is, one, is a substantial part of their practice dealing with the issue that you're there for.
Sure.
Do they do a lot of this? So, is this something they do day in, day out? Second, how long have they been doing it?
Mm-hmm.
You know, have they been doing it 20 years? Or have they been doing it less than 5? Things like that. So how much have they done or been involved in that? Again, are they board certified?
Mm-hmm.
Are they, is this their calling, I guess, for lack of a better word, and they've gone through a peer review, so other attorneys in the community have said they're okay, and they're knowledgeable and that kind of thing. Finding the best lawyer is not necessarily who is the most popular. Okay, it's not a popularity contest. You want the person who's going to be able to do the work and do it well and efficiently. I think the other thing you need to find out is, how much is it going to cost you?
Yeah.
I should take a moment to mention at that particular point that Brevard County does have a organization called Brevard County Legal Aid that is out there that services people who are unable to afford attorneys. And a lot of people volunteer to provide pro bono services. And by a lot of people, I mean a lot of attorneys, to provide pro bono services through that organization to people who cannot afford an attorney.
Okay.
I volunteer in certain areas for them, but there's a whole range of attorneys who help people out through that organization. So don't think just because you don't have any money you can't get a lawyer. There are ways to get a lawyer. So, you ask them, what is their experience? Also, what is their involvement? Is the attorney you're talking to personally involved in the state bar? Are they on committees? Are they a member of the sections? Do they participate in the sections? In Florida, we have, under the Florida bar, we have the elder law section. And then we have a myriad of committees in the elder law section that deal with guardianship, Medicaid, estate planning, abuse, neglect, and exploitation, legislation, ethics, a whole slew of things. Are they involved in any committees with the bar? Now, there is a sister organization that is a subgroup of the National Academy of Elder Law Attorneys called the Academy of Florida Elder Law Attorneys.
Wow.
AFELA, A-F-E-L-A, and their website is afela.org. They also have groups. Are they involved in things like that? So, what is their involvement? Now, my personal opinion is, it's based on experience, but personally, I feel unless somebody has also litigated in the particular area or been involved in litigation in the area, they don't necessarily know the pitfalls and the intricacies. So, somebody who does Medicaid, have they done any Medicaid appeals? Somebody who does estate planning, have they ever been involved in any estate planning litigation? Guardianship, are they, just doing uncontested guardianships, or have they been involved in guardianships that have been contested? So depending on what your thing is, but by litigating an issue, you really learn the subject matter.
Sure. Because
you've got to go to court and present it and try to win a trial. So you tend to know, in my opinion, a lot more about the subject than somebody who does not litigate.
Yeah, so we're talking with board-certified elder law attorney Bill Johnson of the law firm of William A. Johnson, Florida, elderlaw.net. And we're on this topic of how do you find a good lawyer? And I was thinking, even as you were going through that, here we are with Florida with so many people moving into the state. And as you were talking about before, a lot of people, one of the great ways to find an attorney is you talk to somebody who's had experience and say, this guy or this person really helped me out in this case. And I would say that they're a good one to go to. But when you're coming in from out of state, you don't have that frame of reference. So now this interview process even really becomes that much more important. And I was thinking about, we were actually talking about during the break too, and I'm going to use this because we're very familiar with the TV ads, but personal injury attorneys, so you'll see these, we're the largest, we've recovered this much for our clients, blah, 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 so call me when you have an accident kind of stuff. And I would imagine that you still have to be very discerning as a consumer, right? Because the big corporation, first of all, you're probably not going to necessarily deal with the head attorney. You're going to deal with somebody that they just brought into the I'm just guessing. I don't know. But you may be dealing with somebody who obviously works under them, but may not necessarily have that level of expertise. And so you're watching a TV commercial, and it's also...
That is a fantastic point, because a lot of times the attorney that you're maybe talking to is not the one who's going to do the work. So you need to make sure you're talking to the one who's actually going to do the work.
That's good. And then, but similar, like you see these TV commercials, a lot of times they're standing in front of this very impressive and very intimidating wall of books, all these legal journals and documents, and they look so, and it becomes rather intimidating to the average person like myself. You see this and you're like, oh, I have no idea what I'm stepping into here.
Well, one is, it's great they have the wall of books, but we have things called computers these days, and all of that stuff is available online and searchable, so you don't have to rifle through all those books. I was probably one of the last generations that actually had to deal with the book format, because they had just come out with CD-ROMs and online services. So, yeah, you don't have to have all those books, but it looks impressive. The other thing that you were talking about is the intimidation factor.
Yeah.
I purposely dress down at the office because a lot of times I'm the first attorney the people ever have met.
Yeah.
And I don't want to be sitting there in a three-piece suit and they just are scared about what's going to happen. And I usually dress down. It works. It calms everybody down. They got a bit, usually they have some sort of crisis that we're dealing with, and it just brings the tension level a lot further down.
So if you were sitting in the chair and you've walked into, I'm just going to, pick on you as an example, but you walked into your office for the first time and you're meeting you for the first time, and you don't really have a whole lot of expertise other than somebody says, this is a good person to go talk to about this. What questions would you, as your own customer, would you ask yourself to say, like, this is how I would determine, to hire this attorney?
Like I said, I would ask them how long they've been doing this, how many they've done of this. Is this what they do, a substantial part of the practice? I would see if they're board certified in that particular area. Do they belong to different organizations, or do they participate in committees that do this? Do they litigate in this area? Maybe they have, even if they're not the litigator, have they been involved in litigation in this area? Because, that's all. Remember, we have a common law system. Mm-hmm. So even though we have a statute, we have a whole body of case law that determines how you interpret those statutes.
Right.
So unless you've gone into the case law, you don't know how the courts view these things. And that can drastically change how you do things.
Yeah. And here's another question. When we go into the law office the first time, do we talk about money?
I would. Yes.
So what would we ask as we go in and we say, hey, listen, I'm trying to, I think I'm here about this. And that's the problem is we usually don't know exactly, unless it's a crisis situation, exactly what it is we're trying to do. Somebody told us we should get our ducks in a row and we need to get our documents pulled together and stuff. But how do we talk about money?
Well, like if you came to me and said, my mother needs help, she's running out of money, she's in an assisted living facility, we don't know what's out there. So I'd go through the whole spiel about Medicaid. I would go through a spiel about VA benefits if she was a veteran or the unremarried widower of a veteran. And then I've asked them some questions. How much does she have in assets? What her income is? That kind of thing. And then at the end of the day, I said, well, this is what we would do to get her on. Here's how we would do it. And this is what our cost is. And for Medicaid, we charge a flat rate. So it would be a flat rate fee. Estate planning, we charge a flat rate fee. So that's the number. And then as a customer, you should always ask, is that the final number?
Right.
Because sometimes people charge you for add-ons and things like that. And you should ask, is that the only charges? Because there can be costs associated, filing fees, in guardianship, paying examining committee members, things like that. So there may be additional costs above and beyond the attorney's fee. And of course, if you're dealing with personal injury and it's going to be a contingency fee, that has to all be in writing.
Yeah.
There also is a disclaimer now for probate. If you're doing a probate, that they have to tell you that their fee is negotiable, and you have to sign off on that. We have that in our contract now. So certain areas of law, the government's built in these safeguards to let people have these disclaimers. Basically, here's what your rights are and things like that. So depending on what you're doing, it could be a flat rate fee, it could be an hourly fee. Litigation is typically an hourly fee. You don't see a lot of litigation on a flat rate fee, or litigation could be on a contingency fee. In certain types of cases, you can't charge a contingency fee on, like family law. You can't do that on a contingency fee basis. But so how is the fee determined? What is your guess about what, if you're coming in and you wanted to do a trust package with all the documents we always talk about, I would tell you it would cost X. Okay. And that's our standard rate for doing that. Now, if you came in and say, I want to contest my uncle's will, I would say, well, you got to give us a retainer of this. Right. You got to give us a cost retainer. And then when that runs down, and then your question should be, well, how much is this all going to cost me to go to the end of the trial? Because that's just to get going.
Right.
So, I've had guardianships, contested guardianships, where my fee was, let's say, $5,000. I've had contested guardianship where my fee's been $200,000.
Yeah,
because it's how much people want to fight.
It's open-ended, right? You don't know till you get there. And I guess that's one of the things.
Or how complex it is, or what's going on. Are we going to need experts, and are we going to take a whole bunch of depositions and things like that?
Which is here again another, I would almost call it a commercial for saying get your paperwork done ahead of time, because then that takes a lot of that out of the way, right?
It takes a lot of that uncertainty out of the picture.
Right, because that's where it's hard for you to give a good answer, because you don't know all the nuances that you'd have to guide somebody through in a litigation kind of environment, whereas if you can get them to think about getting their ducks in a row, if you will, ahead of time, it's a lot easier it's more finite. You can say these are the variables, so this is what it costs, right?
Exactly.
Right. So again, we're talking with board certified elder law attorney Bill Johnson of the law firm of William A. Johnson. And I got to tell you again, you've got some really good material on your website, FloridaElderLaw.net. You published that book. I know in the early days we used to call it the Orange Book because it had like an orange cover. But what do you call it now?
It's the Florida Long-Term Care and Nursing Home Answer Book.
Yeah, and you can get it literally right there. It's on the homepage of your website, right?
You can download it.
And it's really kind of a really good aging guide because you cover so many different areas in there.
Correct, and it's on FloridaElderLaw.net.
Yes, and by the way, if you're enjoying this conversation, let me also direct you to helpingseniors.brevard.org. Because, Bill, over the years, you've done so many television programs, radio shows. They're all archived, articles in the Helping Seniors newsletter, all around this topic of elder law, and so you can really get that as a good starter. And I know you also got some resources on your site too, floridaelderlaw.net, that help people get going in that direction. But if they want to call or reach out to your office and maybe say, well, here's what's going on in my life, can you help me? How do they reach you?
321-253-1667.
Okay, that's Bill Johnson, board-certified elder law attorney. And, Bill, we're going to use the last couple of minutes in the show because this is the month that it happens. This is our big fundraiser for Helping Seniors of Brevard. I'm talking about the 6th annual Helping Seniors of Brevard car raffle fundraiser for charity that keeps us going. It's literally well more than half of our operating budget comes in from this car raffle. So we're very grateful to AJ Hires of the Boniface Hires dealership family for putting up car. You get to choose which car. And, Bill, we've had this conversation. Somebody could take a brand new Camaro. They could take a brand new Dodge Challenger. They could take a brand new Kia Sportage, just like our winner last year did. David Odahowski from Central Florida. He chose the Kia Sportage. Or you could take the spiffy little Mazda Miata convertible. And it's the winner's choice, Bill. They get to decide which car they want to win.
Well, this month I'll pick it. Yeah, it's a year I'm going to win finally.
I hear you. Good success. And you know, people often say this is not like playing Powerball or something where you're competing. The odds are millions and millions and millions. I mean, this is a local charity, so we're talking a couple of thousand entries. So your odds are pretty good. But I always tell everybody, I said, well, when you get a Helping Seniors car raffle ticket, you're actually doing three things. You could win a car. You're certainly going to help Helping Seniors. And while you don't have to be present to win, one of the best benefits is being able to be at the American Muscle Car Museum, because Mark Pylock has been another great help to us in the Helping Seniors world. He has kindly opened the doors to his private garage, and I say that jokingly. It's the largest collection of muscle cars in North America. He's got 398 of them now, all in spit-polished condition, all under air at the amazing American Muscle Car Museum. It's that beautiful complex right there, 3500 Sarno Road. And when you get your ticket, you're invited out to the party, and that happens Saturday, October 29th, 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. Your ticket is admit one there. So a lot of people say, well, I'll get a ticket. That's $25. But then a lot of people say, well, I'll get $100 worth of tickets because that gives you 5. So that means you plus 4 other of your family, friends, whatever, can come out to the big party and find out who's winning. But in all cases, enjoy that great collection of cars. They spring for everything. Beer, wine, soda, it's all provided. So is sandwiches. I say you can't go out, have pizza and a movie for $20 or $25, and that's exactly what you get. You get the greatest night of automotive entertainment. And somebody, might as well be you, is going to go home with a new car that day. So it's Saturday, October 29th. It's just a few weeks away now. You got to get your tickets to be in it to win it. How do you get tickets? Bill Johnson, you have them at your office.
We do. We do.
So if you go by Bill's office or call Bill's office, they'll be happy to get you set up with the tickets and anything else you need. You can also call us on our Helping Seniors info line, 321-473-7770, or get them online at helpingseniors.carraffle.com. But just be in it to win it. And so that's about the time we have for the radio show today. We'll look forward to seeing you, welcoming you back next Wednesday right here on 90.3 FM, WEJF. So on behalf of Joe Steckler and our whole Helping Seniors team, hope you have a great week till then.